Have you ever thought about a strange question? Not how we see animals, but how animals see us. A dog sees a human every single day. A horse spends its life around humans. Even plenty of wild animals watch us from a distance, quietly, carefully. But what do they actually see? If you enjoy these kinds of strange questions, hit subscribe, because this one leads to a very unexpected answer. Most people think the answer is obvious. Animals probably just see us as another animal, right? Well, here is a spoiler. Many animals might not even think of us as an animal at all. But that raises a new question. How would an animal even know what a human is? We grow up learning categories: dog, cat, bird, fish, human. But animals don't go to school, they don't study biology. So when a dog looks at you, is it really thinking, "Ah, a human?" Or is it seeing something entirely different? We're so used to looking at the world from our own perspective. We observe animals, we name them, we classify them, we build entire sciences around them. But hardly anyone flips the question around. What if animals are also observing us? After all, we are animals too. Just a bit weird. Maybe the real mystery has never been animals. Maybe it is us. The biggest problem, of course, is that animals can't just tell us the answer. Wolves don't give interviews. Crows don't write books, so scientists have to look for clues. Watch behavior, study reactions, and those clues point to something fascinating. Different animals probably see completely different versions of us. The you a dog sees is probably not the same you a cat sees. The human a horse perceives might be totally different from the human a crow perceives. That sounds strange because, in our eyes, a human is a human. But animal brains don't necessarily work the way ours do. To understand how animals see humans, we first have to understand something more fundamental. How do animals even make sense of the world? A lot of people assume every living thing classifies the world just like we do. You see a dog, you know it is a dog. You see a bird, you know it is a bird. You see a person, you know it is a person. But that assumption is probably just a human habit. Animal brains might not use those labels at all. For us, the world is built out of concepts, countries, cities, species. For most animals, though, the world is probably much more direct, much simpler, and much more practical. The first thing they care about isn't what you are. It is what you are likely to do. A rabbit meeting a fox doesn't stop to think, member of the Canidae family. It thinks one thing: do I need to run? A deer spotting a wolf doesn't analyze the wolf's taxonomy. It just assesses the threat level. For many animals, survival matters way more than classification. And that means the way they see us might be completely different from what we imagine. What is even weirder is that, by the standards of the natural world, humans are deeply strange. We don't have sharp claws, no thick fur, no incredible speed. Drop us alone in the wilderness, and plenty of animals have a clear advantage over us. And yet, this one species built cities, tamed fire, redirected rivers, reshaped the entire planet. From an animal's perspective, humans probably don't look like a normal animal at all. So, if animals don't sort the world by species, and if humans are this bizarre outlier, where exactly do they put us? The answer starts with the animal that has known us the longest, the dog. And from here, things get progressively weirder. Let's start with dogs. They've been living alongside us for tens of thousands of years in a way. Dogs might be one of the few animals that truly get us. They read our gestures, they sense our emotions. They can even judge our mood just from the sound of our voice. Sometimes it feels like a dog knows its owner better than some people do. You'd think our closest relative would understand us best. Turns out, it might be the dog. Dogs aren't necessarily smarter, but they're far more fluent in human. Experiments show that dogs are incredibly good at reading human cues. When a human points at something, dogs usually get it. Chimpanzees, our nearest genetic cousins, often fail at this. That sounds absurd, because intellectually, a chimp is leagues ahead of a dog. But even so, a dog probably doesn't see you as a human. Researchers think a dog is more likely to see its owner as a special partner, a provider, a source of safety, maybe even a family member. Notice the key word here isn't human. It is relationship. A dog understands the bond between you and it, not your biological classification. In other words, a dog knows you. It doesn't necessarily know humanity. And cats are even more interesting because they're almost the opposite of dogs. Dogs evolved as social animals. Cats, on the other hand, descend from more solitary ancestors. They don't lean on social bonds the way dogs do. They cooperate with humans, but always at a slight distance. They trust you, but they never fully submit to you. If a dog is an enthusiastic friend, a cat is more like a slightly aloof roommate. A lot of people joke that cats see us as oversized, clumsy cats. That idea isn't exactly scientific, but there is one telling detail. Cats frequently do things to humans that they normally reserve for other cats. Rubbing their face on you, weaving between your legs, that slow, deliberate blink. These are all social signals cats use with each other. So maybe, in a cat's eyes, you are not a master. You are just a strange, oversized roommate who is terrible at hunting. Then consider the horse. Unlike cats and dogs, horses are large prey animals. Their world is wired for vigilance. For a horse, spotting danger is often more important than identifying a species. That is why horses are ridiculously good at reading subtle cues, especially emotions. Studies have shown that horses can tell the difference between an angry human face and a happy one, and they remember it. If a horse once knew you were angry, it might still remember that the next time you meet. What does that tell us? It shows that animals don't just see a blurry human shape. They build memory models of specific individuals. To a horse, you might not be a human. You are the reliable human, or the dangerous human. In other words, their brains track individuals, not species. They remember behavior, not labels. Now, the crow. A lot of scientists consider crows among the most intelligent birds on Earth, and their ability to observe humans is, frankly, a little creepy. In one experiment, researchers wore specific masks while trapping crows. Years later, those same crows still attacked anyone wearing that exact mask. But that is not even the scariest part. Crows that had never been trapped themselves, they weren't even alive when the original trapping happened, also showed aggression toward that mask. How? Because the older crows passed the information down. Crows don't just remember humans, they talk about us. In their own way, of course. You might be watching the crows, but the crows might be studying you right back. Next, dolphins. An animal that constantly surprises scientists. Dolphins have complex societies, unique vocal signatures that function almost like names. And here is the strangest part. A lot of dolphins seem genuinely interested in humans, not for food, not because they were trained, just curious. Some researchers think there might be a weird resonance between us and dolphins. We're both highly social creatures, both playful, both cooperative, both equipped with elaborate communication systems. That doesn't mean dolphins think we're fellow dolphins. But they do seem to recognize that humans aren't quite like the rest of the animal kingdom. It is like walking through a foreign city and suddenly spotting someone who feels oddly familiar. And finally, chimpanzees, our closest living relatives. Genetically, we're practically siblings. Behaviorally, the gap is enormous. Chimps recognize themselves in mirrors. They use tools. They weave complex political relationships. They clearly know that humans are different from other animals. But do they know we're family? Do they sense that we share a branch on the same tree? When you put all these animals side by side, something becomes clear. The human a dog sees, the human a crow sees, the human a dolphin understands. These are not the same picture. And that makes you wonder if we've been asking the wrong question all along. Maybe the most important thing isn't how do animals see humans. Maybe it is whether animals even possess the concept of human in the first place. That, right there, is the twist. So here we are, circling the answer. A dog sees one kind of human, a cat sees another, a crow sees. But do any of these animals actually know what a human is? Or do they just recognize a certain type of creature? That distinction seems small, but it changes everything. We're used to navigating the world through concepts. Nations, cities, species, but those concepts aren't natural facts. They're human-made classification systems. Without language, would those categories even exist? If you can't say the word human, can you even think the thought human? A lot of scientists believe language reshapes the way we think. When we name something, we invent a category, and animals might not have that ability. They might know specific individuals, specific relationships, but they don't form abstract categories. A dog might know you, know your neighbor, know the mailman. But it probably doesn't lump you all together under the tidy label, human. It is like how you recognize many clouds, but you don't keep a mental file for each one. What is more, different animals perceive reality itself in fundamentally different ways. A dog's world is built on scent, a bird's on vision, a bat's on echolocation. A shark can even sense electric fields. The exact same room is a rich odor map for a dog and a soundscape for a bat. If their basic realities aren't the same, how could their concept of us be identical? This means the human in an animal's mind might look nothing like what we imagine. To a dog, a human might be a familiar scent cloud. To a bird, a movement pattern. To a dolphin, a unique sound source. To a crow, a face worth remembering. They don't see a human. They see information that matters to them. Let's do a thought experiment. Imagine you are a crow from the moment you hatch. Nobody teaches you, no taxonomy, no encyclopedia. You just know that certain creatures hurt you, others feed you, most ignore you. In that world, do you actually need the concept of human? Probably not. For most animals, understanding relationships is way more important than understanding identities. A wolf doesn't need to know what family a deer belongs to. It just needs to know if it can catch it. A bird doesn't need the scientific name of a tree. It just needs to know if it can nest there. Likewise, an animal doesn't need to know what a human is. It just needs to know how to interact with this particular creature. It is like how you don't need to understand how Wi-Fi works to use the internet. And so a counterintuitive answer begins to surface. We keep asking, how do animals see humans? But maybe animals aren't even asking that question. At least, not in our way. They're not sitting around wondering, what species is that? Where does it come from? What category does it belong to? They're more likely thinking threat, safe, food, worth approaching. Maybe humans are the only species obsessed with asking, what are you? Which leads to another question. Why do we care so much what animals think of us? Why does this question fascinate so many people? The reason might be embarrassingly simple. Humans are deeply self-conscious creatures. We want to know what our friends think of us, what strangers think of us, even what animals. In a way, we're always looking for mirrors. And animals happen to offer a very strange mirror. Looking into it, we see something curious. Different animals reflect different versions of us. To the dog, a companion. To the cat, a roommate. To the horse, a pattern of behavior. To the crow, a face worth remembering. To the dolphin, a weirdly fascinating visitor. So the real question isn't which animal is right. They all are. Because every animal understands the world in its own way. And to them, we are simply one part of that world. Not the center, not the exception. Just another creature being observed. Now we come back to the original question. What exactly are we in the eyes of animals? After all this, the answer feels a little unexpected. To many animals, we're probably not just another animal, but we're not some mystical presence either. We're more like a strange, persistent force that shows up in their lives. A force that reshapes the environment. A force that can mean danger or help. They may not understand what a human is, but they understand everything that comes with us. We started out wanting to know how animals see us. But maybe the deeper question is, why are we so desperate to know what others think of us? Because when we try to see ourselves through an animal's eyes, we're really just trying to understand ourselves. If you could get a straight answer from one animal, which would you pick? A dog, a cat, a crow? Leave your answer in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because some of the simplest questions hide the strangest stories. Next time an animal just sits there, quietly watching you, you might catch yourself wondering, who, exactly, is observing whom?